and welcome to another episode of AirwaySim. In this episode, I kind of wanted just to go over how this airline is doing, our good old passenger airline, because this is the more successful of the two companies right now, and definitely the one faster off the ground. As we can see, we are closing in on maybe like 840,000 passengers per week, um, which is a really, really good number for the stage of the game it is. I think this airline is just a couple years old. Um, uh, it's gonna say here somewhere. I just forget where. Okay, it's three. It's close to 3 years old now. So we're still making great progress. The profit margin is, of course, a little bit rough, but that is mostly due to a temporary spike in fuel prices that caused a much lower profit margin. Um, yeah, 800 fuel cost at year 2004 is a really, really early fuel spike. Later on, when the fuel is 1,000 and higher, it's not as bad because years of inflation have happened. So as a percent of margin, it's not as bad. If we take a look at our margins now that the fuel price has gone down a bit, you can see it's making a decent recovery. Although another reason for this is simply we have so many routes right now that are being flown with low image. Yeah, take a look at this. We're on page 3, we're still at 15. Page 6 is when we get a little bit of a jump in image, but these still aren't 100, right? And routes don't reach their full effectiveness until 100 image. And then finally, we get into the routes in the 90s, which are kind of performing as they will for the rest of the game. So where have we been making routes? Well, the majority of them have been made in previous spaces that we had. For example, this is our San Francisco route network map. As you can see, we've just been hitting almost every single city that we can manage, and there's still many to go. I'm kind of lacking A321 sized aircraft for San Francisco. Um, yeah, whenever I do 7 day schedules, I'd rather it be slightly larger aircraft like A321s or 737 800s rather than the very plentiful. If you take a look at my aircraft distribution, I think this is actually an easier page to do it in. Yeah, we can see how many of our planes are 737 600s, which are the only ones easily available from the used market. And only a very small proportion of our planes are larger, um, like A321 variants. And of course, we have a decent number of A330s too. One thing with these A330s is we're running low on extremely, what's it called? Profitable long haul demand, which is around 5,000 nautical miles or 4,000 nautical miles, is a very profitable range of flights. Um, for example, if we take a look at our most profitable aircraft, we can see that it's actually mostly A321s, with some A330/40 aircraft fleet types mixed in, which is quite funny. Um, so yeah, the long haul flights we're making are not the most profitable, but they certainly help our passenger count, and of course, um, when there's nothing to do except for order very large aircraft off the used market, which is sometimes the case. If we take a look at the used market right now, call a little update, we can see that there are 0 A320s probably. Yep. And then if we go to A330/40s, there's a good number of them, mostly shorter range ones. If there's anything over 7,000 nautical miles, I'll usually buy it, because there's still a lot of routes that I think that can be made with over 7,000 nautical miles of range. And then just a few aircraft. As we can see, the 700s we get are usually quite low range. And then just a lot of 737-600s, which are still useful aircraft, but um, obviously much more limited in what you can do with a, what's it called, low range uh, 600, or just like the fact that they're so small means that they can barely overcome kind of the fixed costs of having an aircraft flying at all. I'll show you what I mean by this. If I go into my aircraft and what's it called? Kind of just look through the planes and the profitability. So here's the A319s. They're actually quite good planes. Mostly they have a pretty decent cargo compartment, which means if we take a look at just some random A330 we're flying on a 7 day schedule, we can see we're making a good extra chunk from cargo revenue, which really helps. Um, Now, if we take a look at the same planes, but for, let's say, let's just actually change this to all bases and view 737-600, we can see that the slightly smaller size and passenger capacity, in addition to having to single day schedule many of these, creates this kind of plane where we've got a 98% load factor, 100% cargo load factor, because, but because there's only 2 flights, the profit's not very good. As you can see, the profit margin isn't even very good. This would be much better as a larger plane, like a 700 or something else like that. But yeah, there's also ones that are doing okay, like 278,000 or 400,000 is a great amount of profit for a measly little 737-600. But yeah, these baby buses are really, really inefficient. But unfortunately, they're the only thing we have available to fill demand. So that's kind of what we're doing. Um, yeah, if we take a look at my total aircraft here, we have 147 unused. Don't mind that about 120 of these are these very small Pilatus, Britten Normans, and Cessnas. Um, in order to increase our leasing slot availability. And then we have this like decent chunk of unused aircraft. This is actually probably about 45 minutes to an hour of scheduling. We can knock this many planes out. But I'm not going to do that on camera, of course, because that's going to take forever and my voice is going to run dry. Instead, we're just going to make a San Francisco long haul 7-day because we haven't done that for a while. And of course, this is one of the more untapped markets we still have available to us. If we take a look at some super long haul routes, right, they're still practical to fly. They're not going to be as profitable, not even close, to many other aircraft. But like even if these are making slightly less than an A321, um, why not fly these passengers around? It's still fun, right? So let me just make sure there's enough demand. Nah, Kuala Lumpur doesn't have great demand. I think Jakarta has much better demand. And at about the same range, I think I'd rather take Jakarta. So yeah, if we take a look at Jakarta's demand, I think we can see, yeah, like about 500. That's going to very comfortably help us fill a single A330 or A340. I think at this range, it's only A340s. One thing I am worried about is I'm not sure if there's a plane replacement that can ever get to the range requirements that like an A340 can do, right? Because eventually we get the A330 Neo, and that's the plane type we have to fly to the end of the game, right? So I guess one thing we might need to do is just simply order a good chunk of A340s before we expect. Why do I have 2 entire 7 days of completely unused flights? What was I doing? That is really strange. Because normally when you have an entire set of flights unused. Okay, well, let's go solve this really quickly. Manage routes. San Francisco. Then I think we need to go to notification view. And there's actually a surprising number of things on notification view here. And yeah, we'll just delete these, I guess. Like, I have no idea what they're from. I hope I don't regret this. Yeah, really strange. Like, why are they all the same day? Like, or like all this, like why is it an entire 7 day? Like, this kind of makes sense. Like, we accidentally forgot a 7 day worth of what's it called, 737 flights. But why do we have like an entire 7 day of unused of all the same destination? Like, really strange. And let's just see. Kind of curious, like what kind of payload we're getting. I think it might be a little bit terrible. Yeah, 56 passengers. So this must be an A330 500 or A340 500. I think that's the only plane which has the real payload range to make Jakarta work. Let's see where that flight went. I think we need to change this to by what's it called? A350 500 or A340. I say this wrong every time. There's just too many letters and words, and yeah, this is the kind of plane we need to use. I think it's the only one which has the range that we need. And I want to see if I can make this entire 7 day out of only ultra long haul flights, but I don't think that's going to happen. Simply because it's really hard to get the timings to line up. I think the next flight I want to make here, though, is Algiers. If I remember correctly, Algiers has pretty good demand. Yeah, the Indian airports, I don't think any of them had enough to warrant a 7 day, in my opinion, but Algiers did. Yeah, about 260 demand. It's on the low side, but it works. And this slightly over 5,000 nautical mile flight. Also should kind of push our schedule back for the next overnight. So what is this, 12:35? Hold on, 12 and 35. And yeah, this should get us towards the evening. I don't know if that's close enough to the evening, but we'll hope it is. If not, we can slap in our, what's it called? Our maintenance, and then our maintenance should definitely pull us over to the appropriate kind of like evening takeoff time. It might be a little bit too late even with a, no, it'll be fine. It'll be 23, which is on optimal, but that's okay. So we need like a 19:20 takeoff, so that's going to be a very long flight, maybe say to Jeddah. I know Jeddah has great demand, probably more than one flight per day, but we're just going to do the one flight for now as it's a more efficient way to initially schedule. We're going to need to take off at 19:20. Yeah, so yeah, these ultra long haul flights are also nice to schedule because they're not that many clicks, right? They don't increase your passenger count that much, to be honest. And this flight doesn't work. It's actually a bit too late, so we need something slightly shorter. Um, so in like the 6,000 nautical mile range, like Cairo, maybe. If Cairo has enough demand, that would be a good idea. I think it does. Um, it's not perfect, of course, but when we're kind of at the level of like the amount of demand we're working with now, and like how many like flights we've already scheduled in, right, we can't be too cherry picking with the destinations we want to fly to. We just kind of have to take what we got, and this is a bit too early actually, so we can just delay this by an hour, and that should be perfect now. Yeah, a bit of 5 a.m. and what's it called, like 11 p.m. kind of flights, but to be honest, they're actually not bad at all. 7:35. So I think we can do two normal length flights now. We do miss out on the Jeddah flight, but I think the A340 500 has the really unique property of being able to take off from really short runways. So what we can actually do is we can go to Europe and the United Kingdom, which has a lot of bases, not over 5,000 nautical miles per away though, which have adequate demand for what's it called? Uh, for flights, but the runways are too short to serve any normal routes. But I think we need to make one longer route first because otherwise this time won't line up very well. So let's once again sort by whole world, over 6,000 nautical miles, and kind of see what good options we have that we don't currently serve. Let's see what Sydney is like. I think we'll do Sydney then. If the timing works out, this will be a great little flight. Scheduling this for 7:35. And yes, pretty annoying that the range requirements are so high to fly 7,000 nautical miles. Like you need a plane that can fly comfortably over 8,000 nautical miles to really make that work. It feels a little bit unfortunate, but that's just kind of the way the cookie crumbles in this game. Is we need really absurd range requirements here. Oh, and now I'm not sure if we'll have enough time to fly to the UK, but I think we might, so let's go ahead and try it. Yeah, I think Luton was one of the airports I wanted to fly to. Oh, but Luton has a lot of competition, so let's see, like Aberdeen maybe? Yeah, Aberdeen has great demand, so let's go ahead and fly there. I don't think this looks like it fits, but we'll try, like 1850 takeoff. Yeah, there's not going to be enough time for our maintenance. 1850. Yeah, our landing is 1835 and our next takeoff is way too soon. So I think the Sydney idea was a bit too long haul. So let's go into manage routes. And this is one of the more annoying things that can happen when you're doing a 7-day schedule is you have to cancel it in the middle. I think this should be our only flight to Sydney. So let's go ahead and do this. Just close route, keep slots. And let's pick a flight in like the 5,000 nautical mile range, which apparently is kind of what we need. So let's change this from like 5,000 to like 6,200 or 400 as a maximum. And yeah, something like Barcelona, if it's not taken, would be great. Oh, it is. Eventually, I'll go through, and even if there's competition on these flights, I'll just go overlap it with zero regard for profitability. Um, yeah, basically, once our company has like a large enough base of operations that is profitable, um, it won't matter as much when we have parts of the company that are not making a profit, right? So yeah, like once that happens, like none of these like kind of small demand variations will really be that important, right? We can just instead focus on just making sure we're serving as much demand as humanly possible, and that will be a kind of very like fun game plan, as there's a lot less thinking when you don't have to think about whether the flight will be profitable or not. We just go ahead and overlap everybody indiscriminately. um, I'll probably do it with short haul demand first, right? Because short haul demand is A, cheaper, and B, more plentiful, right? So that will be kind of the plan we go through with short haul aircraft, and just make sure that nobody else flying short haul is having a good time. Um, yeah, like basically if you're in a top 10 US base, right? I don't know if I'll have the profit margin for it, and if not, what I'll do is I'll just start to fly cargo routes in order to kind of supplement my profitability, especially like the lucrative ones to China and what's it called, like that kind of thing. You know, we'll be able to find ways to kind of generate profit in a slightly unfair way in order to compete better on passenger demand. Right. Cargo is so underused that, especially in these modern worlds, where it takes a while for the cargo to pop up relative to when people are playing. And why can't I get this maintenance check in time? I think I'm clicking on the wrong airplane. Okay, wait. Okay, if this doesn't work, I'll be annoyed. I'm pretty sure I was clicking on the airplane that was one, like, kind of airplane above. Yeah, and I was, it looks like. So, there we go. And then we can go ahead and just slot all these aircraft up. And you kind of know the drill now of what I'm about to do. So, yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this quick little episode. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.